Hi, thank you so much, Rene, for joining me. Everyone, I am talking to Rene Sonneveld. I'm going to go over his amazing resume here in just a second. But what I want to talk to him about today is some of the issues that we're hearing lately about high performers, whether it's athletically or maybe in the business space, and some of the pressure that those people are feeling and how to deal with that and to continue to perform at such a high level. So Rene is the perfect person to talk to about this. So let's start with Rene is the Distinguished Executive In-House Resident at the Booth School of Business, University of Chicago. He's also an instructor in leadership coaching and organizational performance at Rutgers University. He's got more than a decade of working as a leadership high performance coach. Previous to that, for many years, he was an international senior executive and board member with several Fortune 500 companies. And he's also the honorary consul for the Netherlands and Uruguay. So Rene has a rich history and of all kinds of amazing things. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me today, Rene. I appreciate it.
Yes, and the pleasure is mine, Becky. It's a pleasure to be there.
So I have been really looking forward to this conversation just because of your background and conversations you and I've had in the past. So with Simone Biles choosing to withdraw from some events in the Olympics in the last month, there's been this renewed conversation around mental health and the importance it plays in high performing professions, how high performing individuals have to deal with or how they can leverage their mental health, how important it is to achieving and maintaining that kind of high performance. So in everything that you've seen kind of out in the media, what we've learned about, Simone's story, what do you think we can learn from these conversations and from that experience?
Yeah, so thank you, Becky. That's obviously a very actual discussion, but it's something that's going on obviously for much longer now because of the Olympics and this high-profile situation of Simone. It became more into the foreground, and it's a wonderful issue to talk about. But before answering the question, what we can learn from Simone's story, it's important to understand what happens to people like Simone who are operating under extreme pressure for a long time. And that has all to do with our survival instinct. And I need to go a little bit in light technical medical terms in order to bring this conversation back to your questions. To understand that, we have to understand what is our limbic system, which is the most primitive part of our brain. It's located at the end of our spine, and it gives us very primitive impulses, such as the sensation of hunger and thirst, hot and cold, and also threats, which creates a so-called flight or fight syndrome. So on top of the limbic system, we have the cerebral cortex, where we find our creativity and our analytical powers, our memories, our emotions. So simply said, our limbic system helps us to survive, and our cortex makes us smart. So now what happened 10,000 of years ago when a hunter would go into the forest looking for food for himself and his tribe and would encounter a lion, immediately, literally in a microsecond, the limbic system would signal that there's a threat and activate the body by giving signals to the glands to release cortisol, to increase blood pressure and blood sugar levels for the liver, and also to release glucose for muscle fuel. So at the same time, a great doses of adrenaline is released to increase the strength for the fight or flight reaction of the body. So what happens? The body is now fully activated, wants to fight, it wants to flight, or maybe wants to freeze. Whatever is considered the better survival method against a threat, right? I wouldn't know what to do when a lion comes by. But what happens is our body gets activated under this situation of survival stress, yeah? And we still have this connection with our primitive brain. So though we rarely encounter lions in the forest nowadays, thanks God, you may have felt this, for example, when you were driving a car and a little boy or girl jumps in front of the car running after a ball. So what happens? Your limbic system activates, goes to an overdrive, and you push in a microsecond, you push the brake pad to avoid the threat, and in this case, hitting a child. So after this hormone-fueled action, remember we spoke about the release of cortisols and adrenalines, you often feel a bit dizzy or trembling, your hands are maybe wet, you feel some respiration, your breath is accelerated, and it makes you feel some time, take some time before that feeling goes away. So, and you feel actually, you feel uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable feeling, this acceleration. So now we're coming to what happens to high performance athletes and executives who must distinguish between pressure and stress. So any high performing athlete or executive, it's already almost within the word of it, are under permanent performance pressure. And pressure actually is a good thing. You know, pressure keeps us focused, concentrated. It gives a certain alertness. It opens our brain inputs. And so pressure and high performance go hand in hand. But what we must avoid, and this is the point, we must avoid the pressure. We must avoid that our pressure enters into an area of stress, because stress will eventually activate our limbic system and push us into the survival mode. And the problem of being under permanent stress is that your body can only release so much of cortisol and adrenaline. And once the glands are empty and you have no chance that the production can come up with the demand. So people will get into a situation if they are all the time draining their glands and their hormone system, they go into a situation that we also are known as fatigue or burnout. There are similar physical appearances that you might also find in depression, but it's not. It is really a burnout because your body is being burned out. And this is what happened to Simone. No, she was under permanent stress because so many people depend on her performance. It was not the pressure of the performance itself, but the stress that, the stress from interfering factors that burned her out. And one remarkable comment from Simone was that she felt that she didn't compete any longer for herself, but only for others. She stopped enjoying the voyage. And the only thing that was left was bad stress, and voila, the results that showed themselves.
Oh, interesting. And I don't know if I had heard that particular quote, but it sounds like it became less of a performance to achieve and more of an obligation. She moved into a different mental space, it sounds like, completely.
Yes, and this is the point. So, and this is also the point of, in how far can a person interfere or dominate his interference from these external factors. The pressure of the public, the pressure of the news, of the athletic union, of whatever, the pressures from the parents. And in her case, it became just too much for her. And this is, the result of what happened and what can happen to thousands of high-performing athletes in the world and high-performing executives as well. It's a very similar situation.
And I know that you coach, you specialize in coaching some high-performance athletes yourself. You also work with incredibly high-performing executives and various leaders. What, besides maybe bringing in awareness like you just did to kind of that difference between pressure and stress, are there any other more general things that you tell clients to kind of keep in mind, or things that can help them to avoid that burnout or even maybe begin to recover from some of that?
Yes. So this is actually the point. We what I'm doing in my practice, I first of all, I don't tell people to do things. That would be mentoring. Sometimes I mentor, but most of my clients are people that I'm coaching. So we're creating together the awareness about, how to take away roadblocks on achieving, fulfillment in whatever they're seeking. But there in the many years that I met some truly astonishing people all over the world, sports people and executives, I realized that they have three very strong points in common, and which helps them to achieve greatness. One is they, as I mentioned already before, they know how to dominate their interferences. So any kind of external factors that prevent them from achieving and performing at the level where they are talented to perform. The second issue that these people have in common is they're mentally tough. So they have a high level of confidence, control, they're resilient people. And furthermore, they have this leadership abilities, not only to lead themselves, but also to be leaders in front of their teams or in work, the teams at work. Yeah. So Becky, the real takeaway from this conversation for those people that are listening is that, pressure is good, stress is bad. And top performers, both in sport and executive level, should be accustomed to deal with pressure. So psychologists, executives, and mental skills coaching can play an important role in the high-performing athletes and executives. And where in the past, people would say, no, we only go to a psychologist or a mental skills coach or a executive coach. If you would go, it means that you just don't have it, you're not strong enough, or they would only send their people to them when there is a problem. There's a problem with this executive. There's a problem, with Simone Biles, and that kind of conversation nowadays has to be normalized. It's absolutely normal to work with, these type of people, to help people to prevent from getting into bad situations, and to learn to walk with the stress or with the pressure, to embrace it, to understand that it's a normal part of wherever they are performing, and that this is something they should not deny it. And when you understand that, when you can train that, then it's okay. Then pressure is a kind of a great benefit, and it doesn't enter into something destructive.
Thank you. That is the point. That is the perfect wrap up. Thank you so much for that. I wouldn't want to have missed that for sure. Normalizing the necessity of this kind of awareness and building those skills is really important. So thank you very much again, Rene, and everybody, please comment or ask questions, and maybe we can continue the conversation at another point.
Super. Thank you.
Thank you.